everyone, and welcome to this week's Culture Report. I'm Jamal Simon.
I'm DeMarco Randall.
And I'm Antonia Velez, and we got a lot for you today. A little bit of politics, a little bit of pop culture.
A little bit of sports.
And also it's Halloween, and all of us are in costume, correct?
Woo!
Correct.
I am a professor.
And I am happy.
Yes.
I'm like the guy that checks you in at like the bank.
Work. Love it. So don't come for us in the comments. Thank you. All right.
Okay, let's begin.
Okay. All right. And with just days to go until Americans decide who will lead our country, the race for the president is close. CNN's final nationwide poll put the two candidates in a dead heat. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump each have 47% of likely voters supporting them. That's according to the poll released on Friday, October the 25th.
Right now, both candidates are making headlines for things that happened during some of their final stops on the campaign trail as Election Day approaches. So over the weekend, Harris made a stop in Houston, Texas, my hometown, whatever. She was joined by some of music's biggest names like Willie Nelson, Kelly Rowland, and of course, Beyonce, who many expected to perform, but she didn't. Instead, she urged Americans to, quote, sing a new song.
I'm not here as a celebrity. I'm not here as a politician. I'm here as a mother. A mother who cares deeply about the world my children and all of our children live in.
Right, so Harris did draw some criticism herself after failing to speak on any major issues other than reproductive rights during her 28-minute-long speech.
And meanwhile, at Donald Trump's rally in New York City, speeches by his guests eclipsed most of what he had to say, mostly comments made by Tony Hinchcliffe, a comedian also known as Kill Tony. His speech, full of crude and racist jokes, touched on things like the Israel-Hamas war and the Jewish, Black, and Latin communities.
When it comes to Israel and Palestine, we're all thinking the same thing. Settle your stuff already. Rock, paper, scissors. You know the Palestinians are going to throw rock every time. But you also know the Jews have a hard time throwing that paper. You know what I'm saying? Heck yeah, it's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that, a lampshade? Look at this guy. I'm just kidding, that's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun, we carved watermelons together. It was awesome. You guys are, this is a groany little morning crowd, huh? You know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Now, although all of Hinchcliffe's quote-unquote jokes sparked controversy on the internet, it's the one about Puerto Rico that's gotten the most reaction from voters, political leaders on both sides of the aisle, and even celebrities, including Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny. Following Hinchcliffe's remarks, Bad Bunny shared a video of Harris addressing her plans for the island to his 45 million Instagram followers. A representative of the artist later confirmed that Bad Bunny is supporting Harris. Also, in response to Hinchcliffe's jokes, the Trump campaign senior advisor released a statement saying, quote, "This joke does not reflect the views of President Trump or the campaign." Now, Hinchcliffe himself has responded to backlash, saying that he, quote, loves Puerto Rico and vacations there. But I just kind of want to take a second to think about the potential impact of these words, especially the Puerto Rico joke. Because even though, as we know, residents in Puerto Rico cannot vote in this presidential election or any presidential election, there's nearly 6 million voters in the U.S. with Puerto Rican roots who can. And aside from the fact that this joke was very overtly offensive, it was also not a smart move from the Trump campaign in the slightest.
Correct. And Trump did come out and say, like, I don't even know the guy. I had no clue he was coming. Like, maybe he probably shouldn't have been up there. He used the word probably, but I mean, yes, if we want to do just optics, like, yes, that feels so silly. Like, of course, people are groaning in the morning because you're making racist jokes, because I feel like there's a time and place. And I feel like the question is, okay, well, he's a comedian. Where's the line? That's now the conversation. It's like, was it just jokes? Was it serious? Like, sure, if that would have killed on his set, some of those things were probably funny in a different setting. But I feel like those are people that are there because, like, America's dealing with real issues and racism is one of them. So to go up there and, like, make that the punchline is just odd to me.
And I feel like him mentioning, oh, but I vacation there. Like, that even is more
Yeah.
insult on injury, you know?
Totally,
It's
that's-
like pouring salt on the wound in a sense.
Totally, just so tone deaf. And I think, especially in this point of the campaign and election cycle, when we're getting so close and there have been so many headlines about things that Trump has said that have been disproven, that are regarding migrants and Latin communities, Hispanic communities. This was just even more tone deaf and just not the move at all.
And as far as Harris in Houston, I know a lot of people were upset because she kept her speech to only talk about reproductive rights, which, I mean, I feel like it's kind of whack, especially for, I know people who were there and they're like, we were sitting there waiting for 4 hours, 5 hours or whatever. And all we heard, I feel like, of course, as voters, you care about more than just one topic. So.
Absolutely. And there's way more than that at stake. I mean, that's obviously a big issue,
Especially
but
in Texas.
there's a lot more.
I also feel like I've heard a lot of rhetoric go around with who they're going to have attend their rallies, like each candidate, you know? Mm-hmm. And I also feel like I hear a lot of rhetoric of them saying, well, the president shouldn't have this person because they're not fit.
Yeah.
Or like this influence of this person, the president shouldn't be putting that forward.
Well, absolutely.
So there's like,
you want prominent people to use their platform. No matter, I mean, on either side, like, why wouldn't you? It feels smart to me on both ends. And as far as Beyonce, everyone's mad. They're like, well, I can't believe she didn't perform. I was like, she said herself, she's not there as a celebrity. She's there to talk about real issues.
Exactly.
She's not here to sit here and sing for y'all. Like, calm down, relax.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the big talk for sure.
That was a big
got more
talk.
talk.
Talking about,
We got more talk.
Speaking of talk,
Will this be your final appearance?
Precious guy.
This is the wheel of issues.
The
These
wheel
are
of issues.
issues that you guys need to brush up on before you vote if you haven't voted already, because we know early voting is going on.
so just to kind of recap, what we do here is we spin this wheel, it lands on an issue. We've done this in previous episodes, and we talk about kind of the conversations we are having about these issues, what we're seeing on social media, what the potential voting impact is, and just kind of urging people who are watching this to do their own research and expand on their perspectives and opinions. So who wants to do the honors?
I'll do it. I hate doing this. Okay. Woo!
Woo!
What do we got?
talked about book bans already. We need to
did.
take that
You can
off.
watch that episode. We talked about unemployment.
Oh my goodness.
The
Okay.
Russo-Ukrainian War. Okay.
All right.
I feel like the biggest thing I've heard about this, especially amongst voters when they're thinking about who to cast their vote for, is it's usually about money. Like usually it's like we're sick of sending so much money, especially like when we're trillions of dollars in debt as a country ourselves.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that's definitely a topic that would sway voters.
Totally. And I think that historically, I feel like the left has been very like anti-imperialism, anti-colonialism, that sentiment. And so their stance on the Russo-Ukrainian War has been very much like, yes, we are very pro-Ukraine defending themselves and like aiding them in that. But like you said, Jamal, like to your point, I feel like I've been seeing way more conversations about, hey, how much are we actually contributing to this? Why are we, So I think that's also something that I've been seeing on social media recently.
I feel like the thing that's most scary to me about this situation is like the reality of Ukraine being taken over and then the potential reality of those other surrounding countries also being invaded. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just such a touchy subject to be talking about, and for different voters, I feel like your guys' points that you just brought up, like the amount of money that the United States has put into this has really been at the forefront of Americans' minds when considering going forward with this war and how the United States is going to respond to it.
Totally. I think also something that's true for this war and many other wars that are going on is that oftentimes people, and I feel like I see this more when it comes to the right and people who lean more conservatively, to kind of think that this doesn't concern Americans or the U.S., when in reality it does. And so I would just say, kind of do some research on what allyship means in terms of country to country, the historical aspect of this, the international affairs aspect of this, because it's not as simple as just saying, oh, this war started however many years ago. Usually, all of the time, it's way deeper than that. The history goes back a lot, and so to kind of understand the circumstances and perhaps why the U.S. is offering aid or not can inform your decision on whether you support that.
Do your research. We sound like a broken record. Do your research. Election day is Tuesday, so
It's coming up.
you can't say
Get out
we
there
didn't
and
ask
vote.
you to. And also, we also have a guide, voter guide for people, especially if you're in Colorado.
Oh
for
yeah,
certain
and we
issues.
also have that in Spanish. So go to 9news.com, 9news.com/en español. You can find all that information.
Yep, stay up to date.
Stunning.
All right, and President Joe Biden formally apologized to Native Americans for a government-run boarding school, which separated families and their children for over a century. Starting in 1819, the United States had a policy that supported boarding schools that tried to force the assimilation of Native Americans, Alaskans, and Native Hawaiian children. Students who attended the school were taken from their parents, and many of them were abused. The president traveled to the Gila River Indian Reservation in Arizona to deliver a formal apology.
Frankly, there's no excuse that this apology took 50 years to make. The federal Indian boarding school policy, the pain it has caused, will always be a significant mark of shame, a blot on American history.
And investigations into 400-plus institutions found more than 950 students died across the United States while in their care.
Now, this week, we also want to highlight an important celebration for the Mexican culture, El Día de Muertos, or the Day of the Dead, which is typically held on November 1st and 2nd to honor loved ones who have passed. Now, joining us to chat about the cultural significance of this holiday is Rachel Garcia, Executive Director of the Mexican Cultural Center here in Denver. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me here today.
Of course, anytime. Well, Rachel, let's start with what is Día de Muertos?
Día de Muertos is exactly as you said. It's a celebration of our loved ones that have passed. And it is something that's culturally significant in the Latino community and Latino countries, Latin American countries, in particular in Mexico.
Yeah, and what are some ways that you celebrate this culture or holiday?
We celebrate it in multiple ways. We celebrate it by putting up altars or ofrendas, which are offerings that call back the spirits of our loved ones who have passed on. And so typically those altars include elements of wind, air, water, and candles to represent flame and life. And it's always something that's really beautiful to put your loved ones who have passed on their favorite food, their favorite drink, an offering to them to invite them to come back for the one day that the veil is very thin between the spirit world and the living world.
That's so awesome. I love that.
Yes.
Oh, go for it. Oh, I was just gonna say, I know this happens right around Halloween, so there are a lot of misconceptions. People think, oh, it's the Mexican Halloween, so I can just dress up and put up a little skull or whatever. How can people celebrate respectfully? One, can you clear up that misconception? And also,
Yes.
how can they join in if they want to?
It is absolutely not Mexican Halloween. Thank you for bringing that up, Jamal. It is not Mexican Halloween. They are two completely different celebrations. And how can we do it respectfully? I wasn't prepared for this.
Oh, no.
But I do want to address it because you're absolutely correct that people do think it's a costume to dress as Dia de los Muertos because it's so beautiful. That is one of the things that I didn't mention is that we do paint our faces and we put skeleton looks on and things like that because it started with mimicking death, to make fun of death because we're not afraid of it, right? We're welcoming the spirits back. So as a way to say, we're not afraid of you, you can wear skeleton makeup. And then it's also to trick death, right? Into thinking that death doesn't know which world you're in if you have the skeleton makeup
I'll
on.
keep it real.
I think that's awesome.
Those skeletons back when I was little growing up used to scare me. They would terrify me. I'm not even kidding. But now that I'm
scarier.
now being older and understanding it's not that scary thing. It's something that is celebrated, something that you know, you can use your favorite colors for that person. You could decorate it in any sort of ways to help you remember those people from the past.
I love that. Yes. And I do want to get back to Jamal's question. So ways to do it so that you're not appropriating the culture. That is the question, right? And ways to do it in a respectful way definitely include, if you're going to a Halloween celebration, probably don't want to wear the Dia de los Muertos attire. Because it doesn't have anything to do with it. I understand it's beautiful and people want to get their faces painted and all that, but save it for the 1st and the 2nd, which actually are the Dia de los Muertos dates. And I would say if you're attending an event where there are going to be Latinos present, you probably want to ask if it's appropriate for you to do that. They'll always ask and be curious about somebody else's culture before just assuming it's okay to dress up, you know, and I think that that's clear across the board. Like you do that not just for Latino cultures, but for any kind of cultural celebration you're invited into.
Correct.
Yeah, and another way to do it is you can set up your own altar at home, right? I think that is one of the key ways that we honor our loved ones who passed is to set up an altar in their honor, which includes photos of them, little trinkets of theirs, you know, anything that you have, like favorite jewelry that they used to wear. And again, like I said, the food, the flowers, the cempasúchil flowers are one they're very fragrant, so they're known to call the spirits into earth or back to the living, the living world. And so I think doing that is a respectful way to do it and paying honor to your loved ones who have passed more than trying to make it become something that's American culture, which it's not, but it is. It's becoming super popular thanks to the movie Coco that
shout out Coco.
The other people, and it's great because it did bring more awareness to the holiday, but then that does also open it up to a little bit of appropriation and a little bit of misconception about what the holiday actually is.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about this holiday? Like, what are some memories that you have tied to this?
Yes, my favorite part is actually celebrating with my daughter, who's 9 years old, and so she was about 2 when Coco came out, and so we were all about Coco for the first few years of her life. But the alebrijes, which are a part of the movie Coco, but they're also they're spirit guides, right? And so they are known to bring the deceased back through guiding them back from one world to the next world. And they're very beautiful, very vibrantly colored animals that are mystical creatures. So they're combined of different kinds of animals. You can have a lion head with a fish tail, you know, and you know any other combination you can think of.
That's so cool.
They're alebrijes, and so my daughter really loves alebrijes, and so we tend to focus on those things when we're talking about what are spirit guides and how does it happen? What is the process? So celebrating with my daughter is the best part about the holiday for me.
I love that. Okay, one last question. What are some things, some events or anything coming up that people here in Denver can take advantage of to kind of get in the spirit and celebrate respectfully, of course?
Yes, of course. There's so many coming up. And actually, if you all just Google, like Dia de los Muertos Denver metro area, a lot of them will come up. This Friday at the Santa Fe Arts District, there will be a big celebration. It's First Friday, and so there will be a really big celebration with a processional. And Museo de las Americas, it's one of our partners, is hosting a Catrina contest, which will be a lot of fun. We will be present, the Mexican Cultural Center will be present in Thornton on Saturday the 2nd at, I believe, early in the morning, 10 o'clock. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a family celebration for everybody. So everyone come out, and I give you permission to dress up that day and come and partake. It would not be seen as disrespectful by us at all. And I think we have face painters and all of that if you want to get your makeup done there. So.
That's so fun. Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing a little
all.
bit
It's
about
so wonderful
this
to meet
holiday.
you. Yes, thank you.
Likewise, thank you.
The Professional Women's Hockey League is set to begin their second season at the end of November. They're considering adding 2 teams to the mix. The Hockey League began their operations with 6 teams last year. Minnesota became the first Walter Cup champions. And during the inaugural season, the 6 active teams did not have names, but have since added logos and selected names. Kind of cool. But potential cities in the United States for the expansion teams include Denver, Seattle, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. A bit further up north, Quebec City is also being considered.
So this week, Shawn Mendes directly addressed a topic that's revolved around him since he stepped onto the music scene nearly 10 years ago, his sexuality. He spoke a bit about it during one of his shows at Red Rocks Amphitheater.
Since I was really young, there's just been this thing about my sexuality, and people have been talking about it. The real truth about my life and my sexuality is that, man, I'm just figuring it out like everyone, and I don't really know sometimes, and I know other times. It feels really scary because we live in a society that has a lot to say about that, and I'm trying to be really brave and just allow myself to be a human and feel things. That's all I really want to say about that for now.
So this is the most he's shared about his sexuality publicly. Over the years, he's been known to date women like Camila Cabello and Sabrina Carpenter, but that hasn't stopped the general public from speculating.
Now, speculating about celebrity sexualities is nothing new. People have been doing this for many years with many celebrities, including, of course, Taylor Swift. Rumors about her sexual orientation started swirling in 2014 during her well-known friendship with model Karlie Kloss. The most recent of the so-called Gaylor speculation came a couple of weeks ago when the singer wore a dress that some people say resembled the bisexual flag during a concert in Miami. Now, I saw a bunch of opinions on social media about it, including one from creator Madeline Ford, who posted a TikTok about it to her 2.1 million followers. Here's some bites from that.
In light of Taylor's new Eras Tour dress, I am going to draw up my hottest take, and people are going to get mad, and I don't care anymore because it needs to be said. It is okay to speculate on people's sexuality. In fact, it is a survival mechanism for queer people everywhere, and I'm going to hold your hand while I tell you this. Every time you tell a Gaylor that they're being weird or creepy or gross for speculating on Taylor or anyone else's sexuality, your privilege and your ignorance is showing. Okay, babe? Let's just think about it for a second. Who is it that always says, don't speculate on people's sexuality? Straight people. And what is the default assumption of all people's sexuality until explicitly proven otherwise? Straightness.
Okay, now she also goes on to say that, queer flagging and finding queer symbols in society and media goes back a lot, for a long time, not because queer people want to find other queer people who they can flirt with, rather because they want to find people who are like-minded and who they can be themselves and be safe with. So yes, I'm not saying that I agree fully with her. However, I do think that she has a solid point.
I think she partially has a solid point. Like, I agree with her on the aspect where it was like, sure, we only have to speculate about people's sexuality because of the heteronormativity of society. Mm-hmm. I get that. I totally get that. If everyone wasn't assumed to be straight, then we wouldn't have these conversations. However, I still feel like, no, like people can defend someone in the comments and be like, hey, don't do that. It's not safe, because I feel like it's hard to pressure someone to come out before they're ready, and that can be dangerous.
Totally.
If they're thrust out of the closet, especially if they're not ready for it mentally.
Right.
So for him, it's been 10 years now. Everyone's been saying he's gay, which, whatever. But clearly it's been a big issue for him. So imagine if he weren't ready for that, the ramifications. What could have happened?
That's so true. That's why I think this is such an important conversation, because on one hand, I feel like I personally, and a lot of other queer people who I know, have spent their entire lives kind of looking for people like us, and especially people who are famous and who are successful and who we look up to be like, oh my goodness, how cool. And on the other hand, to just kind of feel like, oh, I can speak openly about this aspect of my identity with you. However, we see people like Shawn Mendes, who this week kind of opened up about the effects of the constant public guessing and speculations and rumors. So yeah, I think that it's a fine line. I think it depends on how you go about it, maybe. Is that the thing?
I'm a little confused. So is the problem speculating on it? Or is it yeah, go ahead.
I think we all speculate, and I think I definitely speculate as a gay man. I speculate all the time. My friends speculate. But I feel like the issue then lies in going to people's comments or trying to force people hey, we know you're gay. You're gay. Stop trying to pretend to be straight. That's when it's okay, that's invasive, that's insane. I feel sure, if you want to speculate in your own time amongst your own people, I'm not giving you all the stamp of approval. It's still kind of wrong. But it's gonna happen. I'd rather that than you bring that to someone and then have them be like, oh, everyone thinks I'm gay. I'm gonna have to make a decision.
Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, like, I've speculated people are gay, like, for many reasons. Like you said, it's a survival instinct, sure. Like, you know, like, let's say you go to a party. It's like everybody's like, just walk up to someone. I was like, no, because I'm not trying to fight tonight. I really don't want to walk up to a straight man and be like, hey, I think you're really...
No, literally, yeah.
And, like, that's not my vibe at all. So I can totally get it. You have to, like, keep your wits about you and be like, oh, is he gay? Like, I don't know, maybe he is.
Totally. I think that also kind of goes hand in hand with when and how it is okay to do these speculations and who you do it with. Because in situations and communities like that, like, that's almost necessary to your well-being, like to find like-minded people and build a community.
So how kind of do you like, or how do folks like find that community and those common people then? Is it just like...
Girl, you just gotta hope that some people are around. Like,
But how does it usually look like? Is it just them coming up and like talking to you and like letting...
It's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think that's why, because as Jamal said, it can be like actually life-threatening to like go up to a person and just assume that they're queer. Because unfortunately, like, we still live in a heteronormative society, despite all the strides that we've made as a society to become more open and progressive. I think that's specifically why speculating and having conversations, maybe with your close group of friends or like among your close group of friends, before doing something like that can actually put your life at risk, is important. You know, when it comes to celebrities, it's something different, but when it comes to like your actual community, people in your group.
Plus, I mean, well, sorry, I know we gotta wrap it up. Just sometimes, like all the time, it's not malicious. Like sometimes people just want to encourage people to come out of the closet just so they can start living their truth and being authentic, and they're letting them know, hey, your community is here, like, it's safe, you can come out, we got you. So, but yeah, just keep that in mind when you are trying to encourage people, like, if they're not ready, they're not ready.
Exactly.
So,
everyone can do that on their own time and should do that on their own time.
Period. Let's go.
Oh, now let's hop into this week's good news. A Canadian woman made history becoming the National Hockey League's first ever female coach. Jessica Campbell, who used to be an international player, coached her first NHL match with the Seattle Kraken in early October. She was appointed assistant coach of the Seattle Kraken in July of this year.
And a champion was crowned in the WNBA. The New York Liberty won their first ever league title. CU buff Jalen Sherrod is soaking in the joy of being number one while her team is celebrating in the Big Apple. The Game 5 clincher was the most viewed finals game in 25 years for the league. This marks the end of a historic season where attendance rose just under 50% league-wide.
International travel should be a sport because, child, the way I went, guys, okay, I told y'all I took a trip. I went to Berlin. I went to visit my friend Yasha, and that's Hannah. As soon as I got there, they were like, you know what we gotta do? We gotta cook. And they cooked me a meal, y'all. There was so much food. They chefed it up. Look at this. We made like these little like Vietnamese spring rolls. They were so delicious. He made breakfast almost every morning. We always made way too much. Did you take
those photos?
I did. This, I clearly, girl, it was foggy outside. It was humid. Nobody told me Berlin was that hot and humid. It was great, but we also went to like some art galleries, like you can see here. It was really fun. Got to meet some friends. Spent a lot of time outside. The Europeans love the outdoors, child. We went to this cathedral. Don't know what it's called. So beautiful, so picturesque. I was there for about a week. What else do we have? A train.
I want to be there.
Lots of trains, lots of, yes. That's the mirror in this kitchen. That was before they started cooking. I was like, first we have to get a picture. But yeah, it was so much fun. This was my first time traveling internationally.
Yay!
It was, yay! It was the first stamp in my passport. I was terrified.
Mr. Worldwide.
Girl, I was scared. I thought they were about to turn me away because on the sign it says, like, y'all didn't tell me, like, birth certificate and this and that and COVID vaccines. And I was just like,
whoa, COVID vaccines.
I don't have my vaccine reports. And so, I mean, they still let me in.
You made it work.
They didn't tell, I didn't know they were going to be
They looked at you and they were like,
they said,
he can come in. He can.
And then y'all, like, this is also 1 year of my hair growth journey on November 1st.
Period.
So I don't look a whole lot like my passport because they were like, what are you here for? Who are you visiting? How long are you going to be here? It was scary, but it was really fun. And I encourage, if you have the means to.
That's awesome.
To travel.
I love that. I'm glad you did that.
It was such a beautiful time. It was, It did. I did have a couple of moments. There was some.
Yeah.
I heard a slur or two. You know,
Yeah.
some homophobic. They had. Let me just say, Berlin is supposed to be the most liberal of them all over there in Germany, and
Is that a myth?
yeah, well, no, I guess it was fine. We were mostly fine and at peace, and it was lovely. However, there are people there that are a little bigoted, so not cute.
Not
Have beef with you,
cute.
Berlin. I'm
Not
sorry, but y'all can do where. I mean, here I am talking from America, but I know we have our own issues, so let me stop. Anyway, but yeah, all in all, it was a great time. So thanks to Yasha and Hannah for giving me such a great time, and I can't wait
Thank
to
you
come
for
back.
sharing this with us. This is great.
Of course, absolutely. I mean, hopefully I can share at least one more travel story
I'm
before the
glad
end of the year.
you didn't stay there and abandon me.
I was no, I'm kidding. It was too hot, and they don't have AC in all the buildings. He slept with the windows open. Who has time? No, thank you. Anyway, but it was beautiful, fresh. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining this week's Culture Report. We'll be back to continue the conversation right here on 90s Plus and 90s.com.